Mike Mills, welcome to Gold Derby. Set up beginners for people who aren't aware of what the film's about.
In the broadest terms, it's about love. It's partially a portrait of my real dad, who came out of the closet at 75 and had 5 very gay years before passing away. But even while he was ill, he lived very full, and that's played by Christopher Plummer. The other half of the story is sort of a love story between Ewan McGregor and Melanie Laurent, where it takes place after the dad has passed away, but the new love with Melanie is making him remember all these different aspects of his dad and what his new gay dad, taught him about love.
Well, like you said, Christopher Plummer plays your father. Was that strange for you as you were filming the movie to have somebody? Did he use any of his characteristics, or was there anything about him that reminded him of your father?
Well, the goal wasn't to mimic my dad or to do a memoir. Even though it's a portrait of my dad, I knew from first couple months of writing that I had to make a story to communicate to people, to not get hung up or precious about it being my dad. And I think my dad would want it that way. My dad was an art historian, and he would know how much fiction there's going to be in this. So, so that I was always worried that they're going to feel burdened by me and my dad, and tried to give them as much room as I could. And Christopher got that very easily, and he knew that his job was to talk to the people through the camera, to the audience.
Yeah.
And, but having said that, my dad was born in 1924, and Christopher was born somewhere in the early 30s. And they do share a lot. And my dad was an art historian, and Christopher is practically like an acting historian. Like, he's so into, so much about theater and art in general. So they're pretty similar. I think they would have liked each other. When Christopher just follows his instincts, is not unlike my dad.
But talk us through actually casting Christopher Plummer, because there's a lot of buzz about his performance in the upcoming awards season. But I'm fascinated to know how you're able to get someone of his caliber.
Oliver?
Yeah.
I'm not sorry I woke you.
I went to Akbar tonight. You did? Yeah. Oh, they had some wonderfully loud
music. What kind of music's that?
Probably house music.
House music. Okay. House music.
Yeah, well, the trick was that I had to cast a son and a father, so I had to know who, and Oliver is in more of the film than Christopher is in both sides of the story, so I had to know who Oliver was, because I wanted them to look like family, and I was very lucky. Christopher's agent and manager liked the script and thought it would be a good thing for him. And we're all just waiting to see who Oliver would be, And when I had the idea of look at Ewan and Christopher, just look at their pictures together. They really look pretty great as father and son.
Yeah.
And they're both not American, playing Americans actually kind of worked. They're both sort of not from this land. And actually maybe me and my dad felt like that. So I was actually quite lucky. Christopher's people liked it, and then once it came time to okay, I know it's Ewan, so I definitely want Christopher. I would, I'd hope and pray that Christopher would like this. He responded quite nicely and easily, and both Ewan and Christopher were actually just super down-to-earth, good guys, and it wasn't tricky or complicated or anything. They both loved to work. They liked the script.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care if it was real or not, and
Mm.
What was it like for you as the director and the writer, watching them work together? What was their chemistry like working together?
They're great. I mean, they're both Christopher and Ewan, and actually Ewan and Melanie, were really fun to watch in totally different ways. And Ewan and Christopher, they really got along great. When Christopher dies in the film and Ewan cries, Ewan is really crying, it went to some very real place. But they both like to laugh. They're not super heavy actors that, stay in character or, they like to have a good time. So I think Ewan really enjoyed hearing all of Christopher's. Christopher has so many crazy stories about, just acting stories. This director, that play, this actress. It's just kind of like encyclopedic and funny. It's very funny. Mm-hmm. So I remember them kind of sitting on the side of the set chatting a lot, and having a good time. And then acting, they're very efficient. They're very, I don't know, they seem to very much enjoy each other. It was very easy. Even though that side of the story is kind of sad and the character ends up dying, it's very fun. We really enjoyed each other. I was so lucky to finally get to be making the film. I was ecstatic, and, yeah.
I think that's really apparent actually watching it, although it's some of the subject matter is quite sad. It ends up being quite life-affirming, and what I really loved about the film most of all was its visual style. I'm sure you've been asked about this a lot, but the use of photography and just imagery in general is at first a little striking, but then you really start to get used to it and expect it, and you look forward to it is what I'm trying to say. Tell us about that aspect of the film.
Well, I did come from, I went to art school. I didn't go to film school. I've been a designer forever. I do all these different things at once. I work in, the art world, and I do graphic design, and I do films. So, it's actually just a really practical way to talk about 1955. How I can't afford to, create a historical picture, and I'm not really interested in that anyways. I just want to bring up the past, and I want to bring up, historical documents, actual pictures from 1955. Mm. And I knew from doing graphics and stuff that using stills could be quite kinetic and lyrical and filmic. It could be very dreamy. It could be very totally visually enjoyable. So in my background, stills are in no way less than live action, normal cinematography. And that part of the film really came from, I needed more background. I wanted to explain where my parents were coming from. I wanted to explain what it was like when they got married in 1955, or what it was like in 1978, or, to me, a lot of the film story is about history and how different loves are possible in different historical moments, different emotions, different sexual options are possible in different times. And that, to me, is kind of key underlying backbone of the story.
Well, another thing I liked, I guess this would be along the lines of the visual, is the way you put it all together. It's not linear at all. It jumps around in time, but you do a good job of you're never lost as an audience member in terms of where you are in time. Yeah. When did you make that decision, and how did you decide to put it all together?
Well, I'm glad you felt that way. At the beginning of the writing, because I started writing it 5 months after my dad passed away, and when you're in that kind of grief time, you're always flooded with the past, the memory of this person, or this weird unfinished conversation, or this image. So it was very much like how I felt at that time. It was very natural. I was in the present, but the past was constantly kind of swimming in and flooding me. And, but I didn't want it to be just an arty, weird film that you didn't know what was happening. So it's two linear stories that interweave. So it's not it's just totally all over the place. And that was important to me, that it had an emotional through line. So pretty much from the beginning, I knew I was writing from the present, but having tons of memories, and that the memories weren't flashbacks. They were an equal story, equal part of the tree, and that was fun. I like stories that are broken open. I love Fellini's 8.5, or Stardust Memories, or there's this great Hungarian film called Love Film from 1970 that's very much about memory. And I feel more free when I'm not just doing linear, totally straight 1, 2, 3, 4 filmmaking.
Mm. Well, just before we go, Mike, we really need to ask you, given that we're an awards website, the next few months look like they're going to be a very interesting time for your film, and especially for perhaps Christopher in that category. He has never won an Academy Award, and a lot of people are now talking about his very heartfelt, emotional performance in the film. So what would it mean to you to have him honoured for your film?
Oh, well, of course it'd be huge. It'd be huge. And, my film is still a very small film, so it would be doubly meaningful because it means so many more people would see it. Like, even if he just gets nominated, it means that so many more people are going to see the film, which is really the filmmaker's dream, you know? And I think that, you know, Christopher got nominated last year, the year before, for Tolstoy, for Last Station, and he was incredible in that. I thought he should have won for that, you know? So I think he's very deserving for so many reasons. And of course, it'd be a huge honor. It's kind of like embarrassing. You can't even look that straight in the eye because it's like, it's just presumptuous and, you know, you can't think about that. But just in real practical terms, I want people to see the movie. Christopher wants people to see the movie. Maybe some more will if this happens. That would be wonderful.